Alright. You looking to slug it out? I'm game. But I got all the Adam in the city, pal. And I ain't shy about you. Now, I'm Jake to take her out for a spin.
What is this you wait for? Go and get this idiot!
Rapture's a fish tank.
Shite! You let him get away. Oh, I need a moment for thinking. Of course. This will be no problem. Find a Big Daddy and search the box. I would suggest you be finding a dead one. You see the suit control system? The good, get it. That is step one of turning you into one of those disgusting Big Daddies. The only way to get through that door from halfway through is to have a little one open it for you. And they will only trust you with this. No, I want those big, stinking brutes. Why are these boots here? There should be in fail-safe armored escorts. No matter. Take them, take them.
Where you gonna go? Your life, your real than something you read about in the Saturday Evening Post. Poor bastard. A motherless freak, whipped up in a half-baked science experiment.
I'll never stop chasing you! Never!
Come on, get up! What's the matter with you? I'm just kidding around!
Where do you think you're going? You need to become a big daddy before you are able to draw out the little one.
Are you a man or a snake?
We bred little ones sweetly to certain smell, pheromones. But this is not like putting on extra shit. You will need 3 industrial applications of this stuff, and then the little ones will be drawn to you like a bee to honey. You will have to gather 3 pheromones here, so that you smell disgusting. Just like a big daddy.
Atlas is a friend of the parasite. Don't be a friend of
How's that? Come on! You want me to keep you dance? What's the matter, Mary?
When you're cold and stiff, I'm gonna go over to Mother Goose's house, and I'm gonna take it apart, piece by piece, and brat by brat. Consider it your legacy.
Ryan picks this place, here is where they build their filthy golem friend. Find the pieces of this sky. glad I am nowhere near you and that awful stick. Why the little ones are drawn to the smell of those pheromones is beyond anything I can understand.
I know why it has to be children, but why just girls? This I cannot determine why, but I know it is so. Fontaine says, one less bathroom to build in the orphanage. It is amazing to watch the effect of Adam on their small bodies. Their own cells replaced by the new stems the instant they are damaged. The children are practically invulnerable. It is a shame you could not do the same thing to an adult. There would be quite a market for a man you could not kill.
Good start. Now you need only to find the bodysuit and the voice box from the other lab, and you will be a proper fruit. Get moving.
To kill, to harvest or not to harvest, the moral dilemma that follows you throughout the BioShock experience and defines the fate of the player. This choice lays at the center of your BioShock story and has repercussions that can be felt in nearly every facet of the gameplay. Part of BioShock's lasting legacy, of course, are the Little Sisters and this moral choice that presented itself to the player. Everyone became a water cooler conversation about, like, well, did you save them? Did you harvest them? That concept, Ken, was that something that came about early in development, or that binary choice? When did that come into the game?
I don't remember when. I mean, we had the concept of them being protected, but I can't remember when you actually
certainly
chose.
wasn't. When there were slugs, it was not meaningful. I think there was.
Do you salt it? Do you not salt it?
Yeah. There were resources that you could get, but there was no choice there, right? The choice was, do I want to fight the Big Daddy or not?
Yeah.
I think once we got into the realm of they have to be empathetic, the player has to have some feeling towards them, which you're not going to get from slugs, then we start seeing that opportunity there of like, okay, nobody's going to want to do harm to these girls, or do they? Like, and do we allow them to? It was we weren't comfortable with it at first when it first came up that we could.
I think it was important that it was a way to reflect the sort of larger economic questions of a world like Rapture, where where the economy drives everything. Are there any limits to economic decision making versus moral decision making? Because that's sort of what the Randian notion is that it's not the role that you don't sort of legislate morality. Let's try to take that to an extreme and see where that ends up. And Little Sisters sort of became that. And in this world, they became a commodity. And the question we have for the players, are you willing, they're a commodity to you as well, potentially. Are you willing to participate in the commodification? There was, I think, a fair amount of nervousness internally at the publisher about it for a little while, but pretty quickly they were able to sort of say, look, we trust you guys, and go, do this. And I only had a few, the press, and this sort of happens over and over again. The games press worried a ton about it and would wring their hands about it. They ever recognized it was a setting topic, but that it was done to a larger purpose. That it wasn't just sort of like, hey, this is the game where you kill children. And
whatever, and that was a sensitivity. I know that you guys wanted to call them little sisters, not little girls, and it was and it wasn't it wasn't killing them, it was harvesting them. And I mean, you did some things probably on purpose, right, to sort of explain that this you weren't doing anything vicious to them, right?
Well, I mean, you do sort of. They do sort of disappear out of view, and a big slug out of their belly, comes up. That we didn't want that to be graphic. We wanted to be very clear that you were killing them. Yeah. But it was not intended to be a prurient in terms of, hey, this is a simulation of pulling a sea slug out of a little girl's belly. But we wanted you to understand that you were making a very diabolical moral economic pact there. And we think that came across, and I think it came across well enough. And I think the test of how well it came across is, I think most people didn't really thought of it as am I willing to do this thing or not? Right. And people would tell us stories how their girlfriend saw them harvesting, and then they literally slept on the couch that night. Right. And that's an interesting, that was interesting how people connected to a 3D mesh that's really no different than any other 3D mesh in the world. This little sister, she's not a person. She's a 3D asset, a virtual 3D asset, right, that has a voice actor connected to it who's an adult woman. And nobody was actually getting harmed, but people still emotionally connected to them and made an emotional connection.
And also, I think when you're playing, you don't really know what the impact of that choice is.
Yes.
And that's sort of the curiosity of you're a gamer, so it's like, am I going to game the system? Which one should I pick? How does this impact things as you go through the game? It's never really fully clear what that choice is going to lead to, right? And the ambiguousness of that was something you wanted to sort of create mystery around throughout the game?
Yeah, we went back and forth a lot about what the rewards for harvesting versus saving would be, and actually I think we should have really pushed further that the rewards for saving were much more, should have been much more meager than the rewards for harvesting, just to really sort of put you up against the wall, push you up against the wall and say, are you going to stick by your moral guns here? Because you're going to pay for it. Because that's usually the way life is, right? It's always harder to take a moral path than it is to take an amoral path. But there's incentives to take amoral paths because it's the easier path.
As you play through the game, eventually you get to the ending, and as we know now, there were sort of two endings that were affected by that choice. And that was something at the time, I know you said publicly that you weren't in favor of sort of having two endings. Was that in part because, the game is about not having choice, or did you think that, the two endings were, I don't know, I'm interested for narratively, why you didn't want to go that path?
It seemed forced, given that the game really sort of almost made a joke, a meta commentary joke about the lack of agency in games, the lack of meaning of those choices, given that you have these two endings. I guess you could make an argument that, well, you were free, you were given choice of the, once Ryan's dead, and that's really what it's about. But I think we also didn't really have enough time to execute on those super well. I was pretty happy with how the happier one came out, with the sort of little sister focus, but it's a much more subtle story than I would have time to tell about your slow descent into, moral chaos and dissolute living and all the things that sort of come along with a life that is sort of separate from a moral structure. It's a long story.
And that's what, I mean, you were just switching a cutscene. It wasn't like you were doing sort of a whole other level that was different or something. So the choice was...
There's two cutscenes with very tight time and economic
or
constraints.
just start a nuclear war.
Yes. And that's not...
You're a nice guy, or you start a nuclear war.
And because we had so many problems on our plate, that was something I had to sort of do in the spare time. So I was pretty happy with one, but not very happy with the other.
I know you had said publicly before that there was another sort of more ambiguous ending that you had originally planned, or what would you have done?
There was a notion of an ambiguous ending, which if I just wrote one, I would have found a way that would just talk about the moral ambiguity of the world rather than the sort of, positive or negative, because it is such a look. I think we really tried with BioShock not to sort of make a game about good and evil. It was really about circumstances and what circumstances lead people to. Right. And how they delude themselves with ideology to do things that they would think are evil, but it's okay because it's for the good cause. Right. And that's what I probably would have. If I just had one to write, I'd probably focus more on that. How difficult it is to sort of align when you start being driven by ideology rather than being in the moment and thinking about the impact of what you're doing.
Right. Sean, you talked to gamers, I'm sure, over the years. Did you ever get a sense of how many people harvested versus saved, and was there any sort of data? I mean, this is before the days where you get telemetry and data on like what people picked and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, it seems like more people saving Little Sisters. Although, I have a few friends that were. I just harvested every single one. I wanted to see what happened. So I don't know if that was more, the game developer and them trying to see, what would happen, but certainly for the most part, I think most people. Which I guess is a good thing. It means that maybe people are good at heart. They kind of feel bad. They want they want to save the Little Sisters. So, yeah, I'll say it. The needle sways towards the green there.
Time for bed, Mr. B. Hurry, Mr. Bubbles.
When there's a fever, not when I say anything.
Where you be finding the voice box to have sound like one of those Big Daddy's pre-toxic creatures.
Unleash insects against groups of enemies. Attack lots of enemies at the same time.
is a two-way street. The crowd's holding auditions for the Frankenstein parade, and you're first in line.
Look at you. We will make Big Daddy out of you yet, I think. There is only one piece missing. The bodysuit. Go to fail-safe armored escorts.
I bleed out! You only make me... Come on! I just want to talk!
Really got hooks into you. You can magnify it all you want, but the old man was bingo on one point of fact. You won't even walk till somebody says go. Shame things turned out this way, kid. You and me could have run the table in this place. Now there's nothing left for you but a long course.
Thank you.
I'll admit Fontaine showed some foresight when he built up the plasmid business, but the man really never understood sales. Hiding those little girls beneath a bushel.
Look around you, kid. You think 2-bit heroics count for a fig in this pit? You're staring down the puke stain of Ryan's busted dream. You think it's something worth saving down here? Then you deserve to gargle with the rest of these scrubs.
Are you afraid of me, monster? I'm on your trail! Find a better hiding.
You should be thanking me. I brought you here. I showed you who you are. Nobody never told you nothing but...
Distract your enemies. Buy yourself time in dangerous situations. Enrage your enemies. Laugh as your enemies fight each other.
Did they see that?
I'd turn tail if I were you, kid. Ain't nothing here for you but tears.
And so, all we need now is bodysuit.
Don't run away!
Don't run! I was just getting one!
My
How can I thank you? And another little one with a token. This is where you find bodies. Yes. Now this is a big daddy. Are you ready? Now go to the little sister vent by the proving grounds.
Look around you. There's nothing to save. Rapture's a mausoleum, a goddamn cemetery funhouse. And you and the crowd is just ghosts. Just a matter of time I've got Rapture now. I've got the Atom now. You think that pill suit's even half enough to put the scare in me?
find a better hiding place.
You need to bring them out of hiding and then they'll let you in the door. Go on, hit the vent with your wrench.
Und bitte. It would mean very much to me if you will be gentle with the girls. Ein kleines Mädchen.